Well, as we know, Mr. Sogavare has a well-established flair for the dramatic. So, in one sense, it's not surprising to see him pulling this surprise out of the bag at this late stage. Certainly, as we went into this election period, there were a lot of people saying that he was aiming for a sustained period in power. He's been accused of being like a mini dictator and not wanting to maintain this kind of iron grip on power. But he appears to have confounded those people this evening with the announcement that he would not be that coalition nomination.
Yeah. He talked about, the personal vilification that he and his family have suffered. He also talked about the geopolitics, because we know he was a firm backer of China. But in essence, he didn't do very well in this election, did he, at the end of the day?
Well, so the fact that he campaigned as part of a party and we had this sustained campaign by our party that he headed was something of a departure for Solomon Island politics. Last time around, they all campaigned as independents and then came together subsequently. We certainly saw his party lose a lot of seats. The rate of incumbency failure was high for his party, but it was high across the board. It came in at something like, I think Terence Wood calculated it to come in at something like 54%. So, yes, his party did suffer. He was returned to his seat with possibly a narrowed majority. And he would maintain, as he did this afternoon, that that's what he was campaigning for, was for his own seat. So definitely a sense that incumbents were being punished by the electorate as a whole, particularly in and around Honiara, where things like the cost of living crisis and the contraction of GDP have really been felt most keenly.
Yeah. So the current foreign minister has been named as the pick as prime minister. I mean, what is your sense as to whether he'll be in control or whether Mr Sogavare will still be a bit of a puppet master behind the scenes?
Yeah, interesting. I mean, we don't know, but we can guess as to what the driver for this was, and it's not unreasonable to think that at least one or more of the parties that joined this coalition had made it clear that they would only do that on the basis that Sogavare took a step back. When we at the press conference this afternoon, you will have seen that Mr Sogavare answered the majority of the questions rather than Mr Manele. He was, as you say, was the former foreign minister. So he has had something of a high profile. He's less, less ebullient and maybe less of a presence than Mr Sogavare, who, as we know, can be quite kind of forceful with his rhetoric and his manner. Hard to know where Mr Sogavare will go next. I mean, I'd be very surprised if he didn't have a ministerial portfolio, assuming that this is the coalition that takes on government. But hard to know which one he would want or which one he would get. There's still a lot of bargaining and horse trading to go before we know exactly how the cards are going to land.
Yeah. As far as foreign policy, and of course China and Solomon Islands' relationship with China has been a very sort of divisive issue in the Pacific. Mr Manela is saying it'll be the same foreign policy, friends to all, enemies to none. Do you think Jeremiah Manela will pursue China as rigorously as Manasseh Sogavare did?
Well, I mean, I think, you've made the point that he said to a large extent there will be this continuity in terms of the foreign policy. What that looks like in terms of volume or intensity, we'll have to wait and see. Obviously, Manele was very much at the forefront of this past government's change in position and pursuing that relationship with China as the foreign minister. So I would expect that it will certainly continue to be high in the mix. But obviously, it is a new dawn. I mean, we are assuming that Manele will be the prime minister. That is yet to be confirmed. So we shouldn't get too far ahead of ourselves. But I think that, you know, there will be an attempt to maintain a degree of continuity, but at the same time, recognise that there are concerns in the Solomon Islands community about how their relationships with various partners are being used and developed or possibly even manipulated. So I think it's. I don't think the temperature is going to be as high, assuming Manele does take on the leadership. But I don't think the geopolitics are going away anytime soon.
Interesting. To your point, they need at least 26 MPs to form government. They say they have 28. What are your thoughts going into this meeting on Thursday? Solomon Islands politics is always interesting to watch, isn't it?
Well, it is. And as I've said before, no one makes any money betting on politics in Solomon Islands or anywhere else in Melanesia. So they're claiming 28, which is a majority, but it's still quite slim. And I think in order to be, you know, to feel safe and confident, they would be looking at having 30 plus. Sogavare said today they're very confident of their 28. I have no doubt that the WhatsApp groups and the phones will be buzzing hot all through the day and night between now and when they actually go into Parliament on Thursday. We still don't know who the CARE coalition are putting forward as their nominee. We are expecting it to be Peter Kenalaria Jr., but that's yet to be confirmed officially. And also, in amongst all this, we've got Gordon Dasililo, GDL, as he's referred to in Honiara, and it's still not completely clear what role he's playing in this. You know, if he's able to gather half a dozen of the independents around him, then that will make him a force to be reckoned with. So, you know, whilst Thursday doesn't seem that far away, there's still a lot of fluidity at play.
Yeah, indeed. Great to get your analysis and thoughts on this, Tess. Thanks for your time.
Thanks, Bev.